Welcome to the Peaked podcast, where I talk about gender identity ideology and other bad ideas, women's rights and free speech from a European point of view. Welcome to another episode of Peaked. I'm Róisín. You can find me on Twitter at Róisín Michaux. That's Roisin, capital Michaux. And I'm talking today with Jenny, who some people will already know in turf world because she is what's known as a trans widow. Jenny has a long backstory dealing with trans madness. And if you want to know more, you can follow her on Twitter. She's at EYRE_ANN. So tell me what's happening in your town in Donegal this week?
Well, there's a so-called Pride event happening in my town. It's a bilingual event in Irish and English. And it's run by basically one guy. There's a group of people, but one man is at the head, and he is an extremist. So he's got the town covered in progress flags, not pride flags, but he hasn't really informed the town of what his actual agenda is, and it's far more than gay pride, but people don't know.
Okay, so they're pride, but for it's an Irish-speaking pride organization.
Yes, yeah.
Well, because you live in an Irish-speaking.
I do. Yeah,
rural area.
It's a remote rural area that's Irish-speaking. Yeah, it's Gaeltacht.
And so, of all of the events during the week, which events in particular do you have an issue with, or is it all of them?
It's hard to say. It's a lot of. They use the word queer rather than gay, lesbian, or bisexual. And they always say community, LGBTQIA plus community, and this is misleading because people still think that means gay pride. The man who organized it has duped the town into thinking they're celebrating gay pride, and that's not the agenda here.
But so to what extent is it trans pride? Like are all the events about trans, or?
Well, he's marketed the event with the progress flag, so that includes the trans flag, and he has the progress flags all over the town. The event that I'm most concerned with is on Wednesday. He's bringing in a group called the Transgender Equality Network Ireland, and they have a very narrow agenda.
Okay, so Trans Equality Network Ireland, that's TENI, quite an old organisation by trans advocacy NGO standards, I think, when you compare it with other countries. They've always had a big, huge money flow coming from the Irish Health Service, and a lot of scandals in the last few years about finances and things. But there are some particular characters in TENI that are special, let's say. Do you know which of the special TENI characters is going to be showing up on Wednesday in your town?
Tara Hewitt. He's apparently the new director.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's had a long history in England working to bring his particular agenda into their health service, and now he's here in Ireland.
As far as I know, he's like he's a conservative. Is that
correct?
I
mean, so he markets himself as a Catholic transgender person. So he said that he's anti-choice, anti-IVF, and some of us take issues with that because in Ireland, they piggyback constantly on repeal, and they talk about how conservatives are the problem. They're the fascists, and yet if a person is useful to them, then that just goes right out the window. So this guy is what they usually rail against, and they're constantly on about Brit turfs, and yet they're bringing in.
What do you mean they're constantly on about Brit turfs? You've been accused of being a blowing turf.
And a right-wing yank and blah blah blah. It's just that they're quite anti-British a lot of the time, unless there's a British person that's useful to them. So they're just hypocritical. He's also apparently a furry, or someone who likes to dress as a cartoon animal for sex, which I find alarming. And a BDSM fetishist. He was in Killarney this last April. sitting at a table with Susie Green, and they were discussing how they could go about undermining HSE standards. So they could get,
health service executive, the Irish health service.
Yeah. So they could get, so groups like GenderGP could get a foothold in Ireland.
What is GenderGP?
It's notorious for many things, but it will try to get hormones and puberty blockers to children without parents' knowledge. So that's the most alarming thing about GenderGP to me. And now here's this man coming to a remote rural area to meet with children.
The HSE has had a lot of issues with TENI in the last few years. They had some accountancy problems. They were late with their filing their accounts for 3 years in a row, I think.
Yes.
And one of the senior people there, I don't remember what his position was, Sarah Phillips, who's also on the board of Transgender Europe and who also has some involvement with International Trans Funding Group. I can't remember the name, but he had.
And he's actually in the National Women's Council Ireland.
He's also on the National Women's Council of Ireland.
Father of three.
Father of three. Yeah, that's another kick in the guts.
Yeah.
But so he also declared himself to be. So he paid himself some TENI money, apparently, allegedly, and then the accounts were late multiple years in a row, and then it was discovered that he was calling himself a registered accountant or a chartered accountant on their website, which is, I guess, what the fees were supposedly for. But then they scrubbed their website of that when it was discovered that actually he doesn't have any accountancy qualification. So that's another character in the TENI cast of characters. So Tara Hewitt is part of TENI. There's some other colourful characters in TENI. Can you tell us about some of them?
Yeah, well, many of them have advocated violence against women. So we have the lovely Lilith. I can read what Lilith has tweeted because it will give a very good idea of why we're concerned. Cis women need to deal with TERFs and not just us. And by deal with them, I mean make them terrified and their lives a misery. Hand-holding doesn't work, trust us. They made their choice. They need to be smashed out of existence. Be anti-TERF. So
for those who are listening who aren't aware, there is a massive move on at least Europe-wide level to move gender-affirming healthcare, as it's euphemistically called, so transgender hormone and surgery treatments, from the specialized gender clinics, which have really long waiting times, to just normal GPs. So the dream of the transgender lobby is that you would be able to go to your GP, your regular family doctor, declare yourself to be trans or your child to be trans, and no questions asked, be prescribed the hormones and the interventions that you ask for. It looks like Tara Hewitt has some background in medical lobbying or in professional medical scene, so he might have been brought on as interim director of TENI to maybe see if they can get things to budge over here in Ireland, because there's been a long-running fight between the National Gender Service and the lobbyist activists. So that might be what he's been doing here. Have you, Jenny, tried to talk to other people, other parents, about what you know about Tara Hewitt and what you know about TENI?
I have done. And I just wanted to mention that he was in Killarney. It was the European Professional Association for Transgender Health was meeting in Killarney. He's actually posted a photo of himself on his LinkedIn sitting with Susie Green. Susie Green is formerly of Mermaids and GenderGP. Apparently she's left there as well. And they were heard discussing strategies to undermine the HSE, standards at the HSE. And Susie Green is notorious for trying to get puberty blockers and hormones to children without parents' knowledge.
So in Ireland, we don't really have an equivalent of Mermaids. I guess our equivalent of Mermaids in Ireland is Belong To. Would that be correct?
It's. I wouldn't say that. Now, Belong To it's run by, as far as I can tell, of young people who really haven't the foggiest. They give the most reckless information to young people. You see, now Belong To has platformed people like Tara Hewitt, So people in where I'm from in Donegal would be familiar with this woman. She was an activist. She was deeply involved in repeal. It was repeal the 8th Amendment so that women had
let's say the abortion campaign.
Yeah, access to abortion. So when that was over, she moved on to trans activism. And then she just so happened to realize that her 5-year-old son at the time, I think he was 5, was transgender. And then she started to use the child for her trans rights activism.
So Taryn DeVere, I got to know her, and most Irish people got to know her through social media or newspapers like years ago, because it was during lockdown, wasn't it? She decided to dress as a different object in her house every day.
Yeah.
And so you might have, everyone around the world might have seen her because she featured on a lot of foreign TV slots and stuff, but she would like dress up like a bottle of, I don't know, like a chocolate bar, like a famous brand or whatever.
Yeah, then she decided to use her small child for more attention. And now I think she herself has come out as non-binary or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And she also is neurodivergent, and of
course.
Yeah. Whatever for attention. You know, this woman is like my age, you know.
And Tara DeVere has nothing to do with TENI, correct? She was with Belong To.
She goes hand in hand with TENI. She's not, although she's non-binary now, so I suppose she would have a place there.
She was working for GenderGP, actually.
She was, yes, and she compared HSC standards preventing children from getting access to dangerous drugs to the Oma bombing, and said if it was the last thing she did, not one child needing this healthcare would go without if she had anything to do with it. It was
so basically we've got this cast of characters that are either attention seekers or alleged accounts fiddlers, or furries, BDSM fetishists, and other types of fetishists, all related to these 2 or 3 organizations in Ireland that have basically taken over the entire debate, taken over the entire gay rights movement, and made incursions into the women's rights movement. And a lot of them came from the abortion campaign, it seems like.
Yeah, but I mean, Amnesty Ireland supports them, LGBT Ireland supports these people, Gay Community News, there's just platformed as professionals, as concerned members of a community that just want to help, and they're anything but. They, along with the organizations I just mentioned, signed a letter that called on media and politicians to no longer provide legitimate representation for those that shared bigoted beliefs. Now, someone that they would call a bigot would be a mother like myself, simply trying to protect her children from what is largely a social contagion. You know, we don't want these organizations like TENI having access to our children, but that's what this pride group are providing. They're bringing the Trans Equality Network Ireland to town for Tina chat about how children are part of their community. They refer to them as children with trans identities.
And so they've invited parents with kids. So I guess there might be parents in the town who have gender distressed kids.
Well, many of us are the ones that are concerned, that are being, with basic safeguarding has been just thrown out the window. When parents have tried to contact them about our concerns, we cannot get through. We can't even express our concerns. We are immediately shut down. But is Tara Hewitt also going to be at these other age-specific events? We don't know. And when parents have tried to inquire, they're blocked. We haven't even been able to ask our questions or present our concerns anywhere.
And when
because
you say we, you're talking about you and some other parents.
Yeah.
How did you find out that other people weren't happy about this?
Because I'm the person around here that is willing to speak up about these things, and because most people are completely intimidated for good reason, they come to me. If I think anybody's going to be open to speaking to me about it at all, I will talk about it, because it's important, because we are in a remote area. A lot of people have no idea what's going on.
So I'm just looking at the program, and there's a whole lot of queer stuff on it, like
yeah.
Jesus. Oh my God. So there's a thing about Grindr on here. Grindr. Okay, whatever. We don't care about Grindr. It's just funny.
Yeah, did you see the thing? There's a young woman, and she calls her thing sapphic, and she uses so many words not to use the word lesbian. And I don't want to attack the lesbians involved in this, nor do I want to attack this young woman. But look what how they're platforming a lesbian. They're platforming her because she's using every word except lesbian. Because we know that that's not a word that groups like this really want used.
But gay is okay.
Gay is okay. Yeah, gay's fine. But no, it's queer, that they're queer, or LGBTQAI plus community. So forced teaming is their MO.
Mm-hmm. And how, so no, you don't have to give me a number, but is there much resistance to it, and how willing are people to speak up about it?
Well, I only talk to a certain number of people. I think 5 other parents, and I have been talking and trying to figure out a way to at least be heard by someone. About 2 years ago, I did an interview with Graham Linehan. And at that time, then I started to be quite open about my feelings about this. Now, my interview with Graham Linehan, I believe, was quite gentle. I repeatedly said that I was really just wanted to protect everyone, including people with trans identities, against harm, but a man who used to be a friend of mine wanted to give me a talking to for liking something that J.K. Rowling said. And I was trying to explain to him that I was raped and severely abused by a trans-identified man. Now, he knew that I was abused by this man. He witnessed this abuse, but he was cold as ice, and he just said, I can't remember at this point, it was 2 years ago, something about him worrying about, he staying up late at night, worrying about my kids having a turf for a mother. Anyway, this was a phone call. We got off the phone. He came straight to my house with a book called Whipping Girl by a man called Julia Serrano.
Okay, so Julia Serrano has said, while I never really believed the cliche about women being good for only one thing, I found that sentiment kept creeping into my fantasies. I would imagine myself being sold into sex slavery and having strange men take advantage of me. It's called forced feminization, and it's not really about sex. It is about turning the humiliation you feel into pleasure, transforming the loss of male privilege into the best fuck ever. So that's Julia Serrano, an autogynephile. So that's basically what we would have called a cross-dresser back in the day. A cross-dresser who's into sissification, much lauded.
So I told this man that I was raped and abused by a trans-identified man, but he thought he would bring me that book to educate me. I mean, these people are so far gone. He is also one of the people that organized this event. And, this event was, these men were brainstorming about how to counter the discussion I was able to generate through, the Glinner interview and stuff around town. They wanted to counter that. And that was why. That was what gave them the idea to start this event. So in part, this event is to intimidate me, a woman willing to speak out about the harms of trans ideology. They're trying to say that society agrees with anything they do at all, because they're cloaked in what people think is a gay pride flag.
And what the money for the Pobal na Céile and Broad na Gaeltacht, do we know where it comes from?
They get funding from a lot of places. There's HSC funding, there's Uterus funding, there's Donegal County Council funding. There's they get a lot of funding.
And then I guess TENI are also Trans Equality Network Ireland are probably trying to tap into the rural Gaeltacht areas now.
Absolutely.
And maybe themselves try to get funding for cultural Irish speaking events.
Absolutely.
Or activities.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not going to go, I guess.
To the event?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe I'm going to be allowed in. I could go there and protest, outside the door by myself.
That would be stressful.
Well, see, because the problem is the parents don't want their kids to know that they're concerned about the event. A couple of them have only just gotten dialogue going again, because the relationships have been strained, because what groups like TENI and people like Paul Penrose advocate is that the children cut themselves off from parents who will not immediately affirm their gender identity and anything else these kids say or do. So one of their main goals is to break the bond between parents and children.
And you're worried that you might, by protesting it, you'd be drawing attention to it, and the parents don't want the kids to know that
well, I mean, if I'm the only one standing out there, then they're going to be able to say, look at this crazy right-wing yank. She's the only one that has a problem with this. So I've tried to get other parents to go, but they're afraid because their kids, they're only back, getting their kids back into their loving protection, getting their kids to speak with them, getting their kids to understand that they can take their time, that they don't have to make any drastic moves, that they're loved and protected, and that these men aren't their community or their family. Their parents are the ones that love them and will protect them.
If you like my work, you can subscribe to my newsletter by going to peaked.substack.com and taking out a paid subscription.